All right, man. Every time I see this guy on camera or I hear his voice on the phone, I'm a happy guy. I'm a happy guy to be looking at you right now. I'm talking to Mr. Todd Coburn, the catching guy. Todd, how are you today, man?
Doing great, Ross. Thanks for having me. The
You
respect is
bet.
mutual.
Hell, man, I appreciate that. And welcome to the Baseball Forward podcast. I know we were just chatting offline about the. I want to say I'm happy to hear that your house and everything is okay. Up, Todd lives up in Nevada. They've been dealing with those forest fires or those wildfires, and prayers out to all those people that are being affected by that stuff right now. So, Todd, glad to hear everything is okay. Is are you guys on the up and up at this point?
Yeah, 100%. I appreciate you bringing that up. We're good to go. Some others weren't as fortunate this time around, but we're good for now. And they say it's about 85-90% out. Just some hot spots here and there that the fire crews are taking care of. But we were saved.
Man, we sit here and we get to talk about baseball and enjoy life, and man, you don't realize it's so humbling and sobering how quickly all of it can go. So I'm happy to hear you guys are good. Prayers out to everyone out there that's being affected by those wildfires out on the West Coast. Well, welcome, man. I mean, it's been a while since you and I chit chatted, and I wanted to bring you on the podcast today because you're the catching guy. I don't know I've said this before, but if I want to talk catching, I'm going to the catching guy. So let I there's so many directions that I want to take the conversation every time you and I talk. It's fun. But I want to start this conversation off with to be the catching guy. I mean, your love for the game of baseball has got to be on another level. You've committed and dedicated your life to the game of baseball and serving, young men and the folks around you in the game. So I'm curious to know, you know, what age, how did you fall in love with the game of baseball?
So it's kind of funny. I didn't start playing baseball until I was 8 years old. So I never played t-ball. I wasn't the t-ball kid at 4, 5, 6 years old. Kid pitch, or coach pitch at 7 years old kind of thing. I jumped right into kid pitch at 8 years old. And honestly, I'm not sure what it was about the game. I think I was lucky enough to have a great coach that made practice super fun, the game super fun. So it was literally after my first practice, especially the first time I got to put the catcher's gear on.
Mm,
So I know some of the listeners are probably in my situation. I'm pretty ADD, easily distracted, hard to focus sometimes. And the first practice, because I was pretty fast, coach put me out in the outfield. I was watching airplanes fly by, playing with the ants in the dirt. I think I almost got hit by the ball. And the coach, again, genius coach, had a great idea. He said, "You know what, Todd? Put the gear on." And
mm.
I put that gear on. I was like, "Okay, this is I felt like a gladiator with all this gear on." I was like, "This is where it's at,"
Heck yeah.
and it just went from there. So literally, the first time ever playing, I put the gear on, fell in love with the game of baseball, and fell in love with the position of catcher.
That is crazy. Seriously. And I mean, that's genius. I mean, I'm thinking about some of the guys on my son's team, and I'm like, maybe catching is the answer. So you put the gear on, you're strutting around, feeling good about it. Um, do you what is it about catching that you love so much or that you loved so much?
Well, again, the way my brain works and other ADHD people out there, we're either going 42 different directions or we're
Wow.
streamlined focused on the task at hand. And when I put that gear on, I'm like, I better pay attention to this guy. He's going to drum me right in the forehead with his
Man.
baseball. So you get ultra focused again on the task at hand, which is receiving that pitch, catching the pitch, and yeah, just I was always in the action. There was never boredom. Some guys that, again, some of the listeners probably play outfield. You can literally play an entire game in the outfield and not have the ball hit you
Ugh.
once.
Yuck.
And
Yuck.
I couldn't stand that, just the way, again, my brain works. So the thing that I love the most about catching was it's where the action's at, most exciting. And to be honest and real, I love everyone's, interpretation of catchers, or I can't think of the right word, what people think of catchers. We got to be tough.
Yep.
So I love having people like, man, you're a catcher. You must be pretty tough. I'm like, that's
Yeah.
right, I am. So especially especially as a kid, I totally, I love that. I bought into that. And so the action and just being considered tough and how much I could help the team win ball games as a
Oh,
catcher. Yeah.
man,
So,
I love that. I know this, dude. I'm sure I've told you this before, but I vividly remember 6th grade. They asked me, "Hey, we were doing a scrimmage in spring. Hey, Ross, go throw the gear on and give it a try." And I'm like, "No problem." And I first inning, I go through the first hitter, no problem. And then maybe it was 8th grade, but a kid flips a breaking ball in there, and I know that, hey, it's going down. I'm meant to go block it, so I go to try to block it, and this kid foul tips it, and it goes right into my wrist, and I was done. I mean, I was done. I was like, the pain that I felt on that ricochet, I'm like, this is crazy. I can't, I, to the day, I'm like, I would never put the gear on again. And I was scared to have that happen. So I think to your point, I think these catchers, tough, crazy, maybe a little combo of both. Um, I'm curious, Todd, talking to Todd Coburn here on the Baseball Forward podcast today. I'm curious, Todd, like your background in the game. Like you obviously started catching at an early age. Was it something that as you progressed through that you knew you wanted to play in college? You wanted to play like at the higher levels. Uh, Talk me through that. When did you realize that this is something that I want to be doing for a long time or maybe my lifetime?
so I made that decision literally probably maybe that same first practice. Like
Mm,
and then definitely after that first season, I knew, all right,
wow.
this is what I want to do. I want to be a baseball player. I want to be on a baseball field. The funny thing was, I wasn't very good. I was a pretty athletic kid. I always had a good arm. I could run pretty fast, but just baseball skills wise, a lot of swings and misses. I could throw it really hard, but a lot of bad throws. I wasn't very good, but I loved it. Right. And, in elementary school, there's always one of the first class projects you do. The teacher will either hand out something or ask the class, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And there would be, fireman, police officer, scientist, astronaut, baseball player. Every time, never fail. My parents would talk to me, "What do you want to do?" "I want to be a baseball player." And so I just, I don't know. Again, I didn't really put in any dedicated time. I was just being a kid and just playing. I love playing. Um, it's funny how things change because back then, I mean, it's always more fun when you win and you succeed. But I don't remember as a kid ever losing my mind over going 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts. I just wanted to be on the field, right? As
Wow.
I got older, I started to be my own worst enemy, and we'll probably end up getting into some kind of topic so I can discuss that. But I started getting really frustrated with the failures and stuff. But as a kid, I just loved being on the field, and I knew this is what I wanted to do.
It's interesting. I know. I remember being a player, and I remember coaches saying, "Man, there's nothing like coaching." And I'm as a player, I'm like, "Screw that! Like playing is where it's at. I want the lights on, and I want everybody watching me. Nobody's paying attention to you as a coach." But as the older I've gotten, I personally, I feel like coaching is equally as rewarding or more rewarding than actually playing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I knew as a player, and as a player, and I think any listeners that played at a higher level, you kind of start to get a read on things, and you realize, okay, this might not be in my future. I can almost it's almost time for the axe to fall, and I can see that things are going to be changing. And once I started getting to the higher levels and started having more challenges with the curveballs and the sliders, and seeing the talent of some of the other guys I was playing with, I realized, okay, it's I love what I do. I love being able to play, getting paid to play. It's probably going to come to an end. I know I want to stay in the game. I'm going to be a coach when I'm done playing. There was nowhere else I'd rather be. It's my happy place. Being on a baseball field,
Mm.
being in a training facility, that's my happy place. That's my comfort zone and what I love. And I knew when I was done playing, I was definitely going to get into coaching.
What's as a coach? Because man, you deal with so guys. Todd Coburn, the catching guy. This guy, go check him out on social media. If you don't know who he is, I'd be shocked already. You guys probably already know who he is, so I don't even have to say it. But you impact so many young lives, man. Like we've had this conversation, the number of kids that you see or that you coach or that you're around on a yearly basis. I mean, it's in the hundreds to thousands, fresh new ones. What is it about coaching young men that keeps you coming back for more?
So I'll tell you a quick story and why I ended up. So I was, I think we've talked about this before. I thought I was going to be a head college coach. That was actually my
No.
goal. I knew when I was done playing, I wanted to get into coaching, and I was like, okay, I'll be a head college coach somewhere. So I coached at Cuesta Junior College, Cal Poly, College of Southern Idaho, and then I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And in the coaching at the higher levels, it's a lot of who you know and not what you know. I had the experience, I had the knowledge of the game, being a catcher my whole life, but I didn't know anybody. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get into one of the baseball facilities in the area, start doing lessons, start networking, meeting some people. And then I thought I would get back into college coaching. So I started doing lessons. And the story I want to tell you, there's a young man that came in for a lesson. His mom called me ahead of time and said, hey, I'd like to get my son some lessons, but he's never played. His new best friend at school plays, but he's never played. Can you help him? I was like, I'll bring him in. Let me see what I can do. He was a left-handed batter, but he had his hands crossed over the first time he was up there. And I was like, is he righty or lefty? Mom's like, he's a lefty. I was like, all right, switch your hands. So that's how raw he was. He had no clue. So we ended up working out together probably about, I don't know, a dozen times, maybe around 15 times. And he came in for his next lesson after one with a game ball. He had hit 2 over the fence home runs in the same game
Oh my
after about
gosh.
18 lessons. So of course he's smiling from ear to ear.
Heck
He's a
yeah.
happy camper. But mom says, "Hey, go in the cage. Coach Todd will be right there." And she pulls me out to the side and breaks down crying. And she's
Oh.
like, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you've done for my son. Obviously, he's doing better on the baseball field, but he's doing better in school. He's more outgoing. He doesn't want to just hide out in his room. He wants to go do things. The
Hmm.
confidence you've given him on the baseball field is also helping him in life. Thank you so much." And I was like, I've been coaching in college at the college level the last 3 years. And I was thinking, some of these college kids, you think they already know it all. They're stubborn. They're sometimes hard to work with. These kids, man, their eyes this big and they're just soaking it all in. And if I can have
Mm.
that big of a positive impact on a kid's life, I was like, this is where I need to be. So that was in 2000 in Atlanta, Georgia, Marietta, Georgia.
Wow.
And so I've been doing camps, clinics, and lessons and that kind of stuff for the last almost 25 years now for a living, solely for a living. That's all I've done.
Hey, God is good, man.
Yeah.
25 years
Yeah.
coaching the beautiful game of baseball and specifically catchers. I mean, my goodness, you've made a living on making catchers, creating catchers. That blows my mind and I love it. Um, that's what a good story that is because I feel like that's what baseball does to it grows you up. It gives you confidence. It allows you to step out maybe when you're before you're ready. It allows you to puff up. I'm if you were talking to a younger version of yourself, let's just say Todd when you were, let's call it 13-year-old Todd, okay? I'd be curious to know what your advice to a 13-year-old version of yourself would be, knowing what you know now.
So by far, no contest, easy answer. Work on the mental game, the importance of
Mm,
the mental game.
yes,
So
sir.
a personality trait of ADD and ADHD people is we have highs and lows. Like emotionally, we have a challenge controlling our emotions. If something makes us mad, we get really mad. If something makes us sad, we get really sad. If something makes us happy, we get really happy. It's just like an extreme. And again, I didn't find this out till as an adult, and my parents didn't really realize what was going on with me. But I say this at my camps all the time. I never practiced failing. It
Yeah.
sounds funny putting it that way, but you have to learn from your failures and move on. As I continued on in the game, and it probably started to really get into me around Babe Ruth or high school. The frustration of messing up and that kind of stuff. Again, as a kid, I just played. I wanted to succeed, but it wasn't that big a deal when I would fail. As I got older and I felt like the games meant more, and I knew this is truly what I wanted to do, when I would strike out, I was a bat thrower and a helmet thrower and literally punching and kicking stuff and pushing teammates. And I
Mm,
was not the best teammate. So I guess to get back to your question, I would definitely emphasize learn how to control your emotions. It's a difference maker in this game. That your skills will only get you so far. It's your attitude and your effort and work ethic and your ability to control your emotions that's going to be the difference maker.
Todd, I feel like I'd be missing an opportunity here to not have you expand because man, there's so many listeners out there, me included, that have some version of ADD, ADHD, that don't know it, that are ashamed of it, that don't know how to handle it, that don't know how to cope with it, that don't know how to recognize it. I feel like I'd be missing an opportunity if I didn't ask you, like, understanding who you are and accepting who you are. How has it changed your life?
So very easily distracted is the best way to put it.
Mhm.
Is and I know there's other people out there like me. Some people have go down different things as ADHD people, but for me, it was just very easily distracted. So uh, it didn't really click again until around high school when I started to figure out, okay, I got different challenges than some other people have. It's hard for me to focus, and I don't really necessarily have any trick of the trade, so to speak, but just understanding, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm going to have to learn to deal with. Sometimes I was very good at it. Sometimes I'd have a challenge. Honestly, it ended up being the ultimate demise of my career. I tell
Mm.
these stories at my camps all the time. Just having blow ups, breaking bats over my knee, again, pushing teammates, kicking stuff, punching stuff. As you know, I played in the Phillies organization, the minor leagues. I had the tools and the body and everything of a big leaguer, but I had the mind of a 10-year-old. And I did go to a sports psychologist. This is something important for the listeners to understand. If you are like me and you have the challenges that I'm discussing and bringing up, you have to get your ego out of the way, right?
Mm.
So my mom, again, as I got older, as my senior year of high school, she could pick up. She saw the bat throws and the screams and getting benched for losing my mind. So she sent me to a sports psychologist who was having me take deep breaths and visualize and do all these different weird things. And well, in my mind, they were weird.
Mhm.
And I went to one session. I told my mom, "Don't sign me up again. I'm not going to go. That was too weird. That guy was weird. He was making me focus on my breathing and closing my eyes and seeing this and seeing that. When it's like that should have been. We got to work on that as just as hard, if not more,
Mm.
than the physical side of things. So I mean, to get back to your question, again, I wish I had just like a definitive, this is how I did it. But it was just understanding who I was as a person. I got to Cal Poly, by the way. So I cruised through high school. I got a 3.0 with minimal effort. I got to junior college. I played at Butte Junior College in Northern California. I think I got a 3.1, again, with
Mhm.
minimal effort. I got
Yep.
to Cal Poly. I mean, and got into kinesiology and all these other big words and stuff. And I was like, okay, this cruising through is not going to work anymore. Actually, my first quarter at Cal Poly, I got a 1.989 or something like that. I was actually supposed to be ineligible. I went into the academic dean. He said, "Hey, you're new here. Now you know what to expect from this school. You're really close. You're right on the cusp. I'm not going to make you ineligible." I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much."
Wow. Wow.
And so that was the day I was like, all right, I can't try and study it in my apartment with my four roommates, three or four roommates. So I found a cubby in the library on campus off in a corner. It was actually the third floor. You come up the stairs, hang a right, and you go back in the corner there. And it was just a cubby over by itself. And that was my spot. Every once in a while, someone would be in my spot and I'd get pretty frustrated, but I had my spot and I would literally go and I would just do all my studying there in a quiet library, because if I went home easily distracted, no
Yep.
chance. And I knew I didn't want anyone to take baseball away from me. And it almost happened. I was almost ineligible. So I worked my butt off in school as well. And again, just realized, okay, this is what I need to do in order to continue to play. And so I made it happen.
Man, I love hearing that because I just think being where I'm at with, and you and I have had many conversations about both of our careers, and being where I'm at and knowing what I know now, I just admire men, women. I admire adults who take responsibility. They're accountable. They understand. They're aware who they are. And to all the young men or women, kids out there listening to this, don't shy away from that. Like, accept who you are. Be proud of who you are. Sure, you might have challenges that other folks don't have, but everybody has their own challenges. The sooner you can be aware of who you are, the sooner you can be the most successful version of yourself. That's my opinion. So I love that you always have the courage to share that. I
One more
want
thing. Well, I'm sorry,
go.
Ross.
Yeah, go
One more
ahead.
thing on that. So, they did this back then now, but I think, in my opinion, particularly nowadays, when someone has the issues that we have as an ADHD person, it's medication. You take this medication, it's going to help you. And I'm sure the medication helps tremendously. I have kids attend my camps all the time, and the parents will let me know he's taking this for his ADD. Is pretty severely ADHD. Some are just minor, whatever. I never took any medication. I knew about it. I didn't. That's just for me personally. I didn't want to put that stuff in my body, and I've had a pretty successful life. I can frustrate some people around me, my wife in particular, with my ADD, ADHD, but I have a master's degree in kinesiology as a pretty severely ADHD person.
Man.
So my point is, yes, I understand some people have different philosophies, and you're going to take the medication that's going to help you stay focused and help control your brain and thoughts and everything. But I've made it through life. I'm now 52 years old without a medication. I have, again, a master's degree in kinesiology and a successful business, and been self-employed and run my own business for the last 25 years. So anyone listening that has the challenges that I've discussed, it is possible to have some success and happiness in life. As frustrating as it can be sometimes, you can do it. Yeah.
Hey, I'm telling you this, that means a lot, because there are a lot of people out there that'll listen to this, and they feel alone. They feel like they don't know what to do. You know what I would encourage you? I would encourage you to surround yourself with people like Todd. Reach out to people like Todd. Ask questions. People like him want to help. Um, I wanna get back to catching for a little bit here, Todd, and I, pretty simply, because I know catching it, in my opinion, catching is probably the hardest position on the field. Other than the pitcher that has to throw strikes. But what does it take to be a good catcher? I mean, what are the skills? What are the qualities that you look for if you're wanting to be a catcher? What skills do you need to possess?
Well, I think you said it perfectly earlier. The first time you got hit by the ball, you were like, "I'm out. I'm heading out I might even go to the outfield and get as far away from this ball as I can." Yeah.
Yeah.
And to kind of that point, everyone thinks they can be a catcher until they need to block, or until they get a foul tip to the forehead or off the toe or the kneecap or something. Once you get hit by the ball, that changes everything. So to your question, of course, you have to be able to play the position, right? You have to have some athleticism. In my opinion, we have to be the best athletes on the field. We're shortstops with gear on. We've said that for years. So you got to be able to catch the ball. You got to be able to block it if the pitcher bounces it. You got to be able to make that throw at least consistently. But first and foremost is going to be, being a leader. And part of being a leader is physical and mental toughness. Being able to deal with the grind, as they say. Every time you see a pitcher's pitch count, that's a catcher's squat count.
Man.
Right. And the way I explain it at camp is, you have a starting pitcher throws 50 pitches, they leave the game. A reliever comes in, they throw 50 pitches, they leave a game. A third reliever comes in, they throw 50 pitches, they leave the game. They all made 50 pitches. Yeah, they're max effort, and all of our throws aren't necessarily max effort, but they made 50 throws, 50 pitches. We made 150, and we did 150 squats. And probably somewhere around 10 to 20 of those pitches that were thrown hit us in the palm, foul tipped into our knee, like I was saying, foul tip into the mask, right?
Mm.
Bounce, and I had to block and hit me in the forearm or the wrist or the point of the shoulder. Catchers have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. We have to understand the difference between being hurt and being injured. If you're hurting a little bit, that's the life of a catcher. There's almost always something hurting. You almost never feel 100%. If you're injured, then something's wrong and you can't play, and you got to let coach know. But if you're just hurting a little bit, again, we deal with it and go on. So again, back to your question, of course you have to have the physical skills, but to be a solid catcher, if you want to be a stud catcher, you have to have that physical and mental toughness. 100%.
It is, man, that is just I just think of that's exactly what I would say. You said it earlier, you like tough when you were young, you parade out because you got the gear on. But when I think psychos, people that I don't want to mess with or find in a dark alley, catchers, middle
Yeah.
linebackers, they're all kind of cut from the same cloth. And I've never heard that. I like the shortstop that wears gear because you think about what you guys do to keep the ball in front of you or try to keep the ball in front of you. It's not. Hey, to all the catchers that I pitched to, I was a jerk, and I'm going to say this, Todd. I'll admit it. When I threw, man, I wasn't. If I spiked one and I was, hey, I look back at all those times that I was, working on stuff, and I'm like, I wish I'd have been a little bit more aware of my catchers. So all those catchers out there that I spiked curveballs or fastballs, I apologize. Um, I want to know this about the catching position. Um, Something that maybe we don't think about on a regular basis about catchers. So maybe something that they possess. But what do you think that most players, like let's just say young players that get into the position of catching, what do they not understand about catching?
We're not only the toughest on the field, we're the smartest on the field. You
Mm,
you have to have the mental side of the game down. So the game savvy. I always put it this way at camp. Not only do we have to understand all of our responsibilities, which we have a ton of them, we have to understand everyone else's
that's
responsibilities,
a fact.
right? We have to know where cutoff men are supposed to be and where the ball should be
Mm,
thrown to, and be that field general, constantly communicating and barking out directions. So the mental side and how smart we have to be is, I think, a lot of times underestimated, or whatever you want to call it. A lot of people don't really understand. For those that are getting to call their own game, get to call pitches. Sometimes it comes from the dugout, comes from coach, but catchers that are calling their own game, yeah, we're facing this batter and we're thinking about what to throw to him. And if you really pay attention closely, you'll see catchers do this sometimes. The batter's coming up and they'll go and they'll really quickly look over. Well, usually, obviously, first time through the order, we're trying to see who's next. Sometimes catchers will check out the batting order before the game even starts. I used to squat down, look, and then look at on deck. And then after the first time through the order, we have to remember what each hitter did, how we're
mm.
going to set them up the next time, and understand, okay, this guy's 2 for 2 with a double and a single. The next guy's 0 for 2 with a strikeout and a rollover. I'm not going to give this guy anything good to hit, and I'm going to get this next guy to get us, a double play kind of thing. So pitch calling and the mental game as far as that goes, knowing how to set up hitters, knowing who's up next, knowing who's in the hole, knowing what they did their last time up. Hey, last time hit it hard to you, Bobby. Be ready, right? And just communicating with the team as far as that goes. Again, understanding our responsibilities and everyone else's responsibilities. The play calling, sometimes it comes from the dugout, sometimes it's from the catcher. So on bunt plays, first and third plays, giving signs to everybody and letting them know what to do with the ball if it's hit to them, knowing what to do with the ball if it's hit to someone else. All that mental side. We got to be smart. I always say we got to have the brain of a scientist. We have to have the athleticism of a shortstop, the durability of a pitcher, the arm strength of a right fielder, and the smarts of a scientist. And I think the mental side, how smart we have to be, is oftentimes not really realized.
Man, that's a fact. That is such a good that's a good answer, man. I sitting where you're at now with all that you've seen in the game. I want to know your take on youth age, high school age. What are your thoughts on coaches calling pitches from the dugout?
So I was lucky enough to have coaches who gave me the freedom to call my own game. I believe uh, having a catcher call their own game is just going to help increase their game savvy, game knowledge, understanding hitters and understanding pitchers and pitching and all that kind of stuff. I know some high school coaches and college for sure, they prefer to call pitches because they think if I lose, I might lose my job. So if I'm going to lose, I want it to be on me, not on a catcher,
Fair.
making a bonehead call or something to that effect. So I understand where they're coming from, but I think it helps with the tempo of the game. If I have to look at coach first, even if I pick them up early, and then some of these guys have to look at their wristband, and then they're going to make the call. It kind of slows everything down, so this keeps up the tempo of the game. Another thing I talk about all the time at my super camps is we can see and hear stuff because we're right next to the batter that coach can't from the dugout.
Mm.
I mean, there's hitters that will like verbalize their thoughts almost like they take a pitch that's inner half. It's not even in off the plate. It's inner half. The pitcher's got some good velo, and the batter goes, oh, like, oh,
Ooh.
they
Yep.
startle themselves, and you're like, dude, that wasn't even inside. You're already freaking out. Okay, obviously this guy is not comfortable with the
Good point.
velocity and the ball inside. Coach might not realize that from the dugout. I can communicate that to him between innings. Hey, number 14 was,
Yeah.
we don't want to slow it down for him, kind of thing. But it's just, in the heat of the game and everything, I feel like it's a lot easier to teach your catchers how to call their own game instead of calling it from the dugout.
As a former pitcher, Todd, like I wish I could have thrown to you, by the way. That would have been maybe someday we need to make that happen. But like I always felt the camaraderie and the connection I felt with my catcher. I get goosebumps thinking about it because I can come to certain instances and I'm like, that was one of the best feelings in all of baseball is being on the same page and like not shaking because you guys are on the same page and the tempo that we work with and attacking like it just fires me up right
Yeah.
now. And that's what I want for all the young men that are playing the game is to have that feeling of being in sync with a guy. And it takes time. It takes an understanding of the game, but isn't that like how satisfying as a catcher when you get a dude that goes out there and CGs it and maybe gives up 3 hits and no runs and to know that it was these guys that ran the tempo of the game. What's that feel like?
Yeah. So I say it all the time at camp that, uh, yes, it was fun throwing out runners. Yes, it was great to block someone, block a pitch, a crazy hard spiked slider or something with a runner on third. Yes, it was really cool and fun to, use a little mitt magic and get that strike three call on a guy. But my favorite part of being a catcher was calling the game, setting up hitters, and making good hitters look silly.
Mm.
And to one of your points, preseason, fall ball, bullpens, that's the time we develop that rapport with the pitchers and grow their trust in us and they'll show them that if you bounce a pitch, I'm going to block it. I know how to set hitters up. I'm paying attention. I know who's got power. I know who's the opposite field guys. So if you just trust me with what I'm putting down, we're going to have some success. So we developed that trust in bullpens and again, preseason and scrimmage games and that kind of stuff. So then when we get into in season, we're both on the same page. And like you say, you're just vibing with each other and that camaraderie. I was actually lucky enough to catch 2 professional no-hitters.
Ooh.
One rookie ball, one an A ball, and I called every pitch.
Oh,
Some of my pitchers, and also this is a good point for the catchers that are listening to understand. A lot of times we're just giving a suggestion, right? What we put down is what we think or what we know is going to help get this batter out. But sometimes the pitcher, for whatever reason, doesn't feel comfortable with that pitch. We need to give them the freedom to shake us off, right? So some of my pitchers would do that. I'd give them the freedom to shake off, but some of them would be like, and these two guys that threw the no-nos were like, whatever you put down, Todd, I'm throwing. You do
yeah.
your thing, and I'm just going to follow your lead. And got to catch a couple no hitters, which was really cool. My favorite part of that was setting up hitters, like I said. So,
Todd, there's nothing, and I want so desperately. I'm pleading with the young coaches out there that are questioning whether to call the pitches or not. Like I get you kind of want control of the game and you want to understand the tempo, but gosh, at a young age, it's about teaching and developing and helping the kids understand the game. So I am making a plea to all those guys out there that are controlling that. Let the pitchers and the catchers find their own rhythm and let them understand the game. Yeah, it might be they might struggle, but man, they'll become better for it. So
100%.
talking with Todd Coburn here on the Baseball Forward podcast here today. A couple more minutes here, Todd, and we're gonna get you out of here. I want to know this: what's the best baseball advice you've ever received?
Great question. So, I probably learned this a little bit too late. It was when I was at Cal Poly, and I had a coach tell me, actually, it was summer ball, actually, while I was at Cal Poly, said, never settle. So, what we mean by that is the work never ends, right?
Mm,
Um, I said as I was younger, I wasn't very good, but I didn't understand. Well, just practice more and you're going to be better. Like practice for me was, you know, home run derby with my buddies, wiffle ball with my friends. We used to play pickle all the time. It's kind of an old
sure.
school game, but play pickle all the time, play wall ball. So extra work for me was like goofing off, right? I didn't really put any dedicated work in. And once that coach said that to me and the work ethic kicked in, never settle again is I guess the best way to put it is the work never ends. I can say this: I got to the Phillies. I kind of got caught up in the pro baseball player lifestyle,
Yep.
of hanging out with my buddies and partying maybe a little bit too much and not
Yep.
making it to early outs. Having coaches say, "Hey, you want some early hitting?" I'll be like, "Oh, I don't have any way to get there." When I could have very easily found a teammate, that could have given me a ride. I could have found some way to get there. And so I guess my point is, I kind of settled. Right, I
Mm,
made it. I'm already a professional. I'm this awesome athlete now, great catcher. I don't need to work anymore. Well, no,
mm.
the work never ends. You got to never settle, and you can always improve. And I think that's actually a big difference maker in the guys we see on TV making millions and millions of dollars a season is their work ethic and the time they put in to perfect their craft. So never settle.
And you know what I love? I love that you said that because you are a guy that I look up to from a business perspective. Guys, if you don't know who Todd Coburn is, like I said earlier, I'd be shocked. But the catching guy, one thing that I sit back and I've watched you over the last 10, 12 years, whatever it's been, never settle. You are such a grinder and it is the day-to-day that makes you what you are. So never settle is perfect for you because man, I admire that you show up to work every day. It is obvious. Consistency, stability, go to work every day. I love that, Todd.
Yeah, the
Um,
work ethic definitely continued on into my life, regular life for sure. Work hard on
yes,
my
it
business.
did. All right. I want to know what advice you have for the younger generation coming up in the game. How can you elevate the next generation of baseball players?
We actually, the topic kind of came up earlier, and I'm going to say it again: is work on your mental game. Working, you have to train your brain is a good way to put it. Train your brain as much as you train your body. We just talked about never settle and the work ethic and the time you got to put in. And you want to continue to work on your physical skills as often as possible if this is truly what you want to do and play at the next level and succeed at that level. But it's about the mental game. And like I said, get your ego out of the way. Some of the stuff that these mental game gurus, I guess you could call them, in my mind, I thought it was weird. All right, close your eyes. Well, my ADD brain's like, open in one eye. I don't know if you could see it. There's a glare on my face, but all right, close my eyes and think about this. And I'm like open in one eye, looking at him like, are you really making me do it? Like, I just didn't have the right mindset. I let my ego get in the way. I'm like, oh, I'm cooler than this. I don't need to do this kind of stuff. Where I really wish I would have bought in and, the mental game is a difference maker. So train your brain as much as you train your body.
I love that. I
And,
love
and
that.
start early. Start early. You can be 9, 10 years old, 11 years old, and you're already working on your mental game. You gotta practice failing and learn how to deal with the failures and challenges. So
That's what this podcast is all about. Baseball Forward is it's guys like you giving back to what the game gave them. And you're listening out there to this podcast. Listen to what Todd Coburn is saying. He's been there, done that. It's not his first rodeo, and that's the point. Train your brain. I love that. Todd, I'm gonna wrap it up here today. I want to say this. I appreciate you being on. I want to go ahead and plug your socials and where everybody can find you, and then we'll wrap it up.
yeah, so it's almost every platform now. You just search the catching guide. There are a few other. It'll say like the catching dude, the catching. Like some people kind of playing off my name, but just the catching guy on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Those are our 5 main platforms. If you search the catching guy, all of our stuff will pop up. Our website is thecatchingguy.com. Pretty simple. Not the catcher guy. That's always a common mistake. It's not catcher guy. It's catching, the catching guy. And so, yeah, that I have, I'm getting ready to go to, actually, I'm coming to your neck of the woods, by the way. I don't know if you realize that I'm coming to Frisco this weekend.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, maybe we can,
I'll
that's
meet
off
you for
topic. And I know we're,
yeah, no, hey, I'll meet you
yeah,
for an adult. Yep, let's do it.
yeah, there we go. So I'll reach out. I get into town Friday afternoon. So, but yeah, so I have all my camps coming up. We'll be in Frisco. We have Lincoln, Nebraska coming up. We have Vegas coming up. We have, whoa, there's a bee in here. Just buzzed the tower. Here he is.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
scared me. Anyways, thecatchingguy.com lists all my events. And actually, I have, as you know, and you just talked about it, I work my butt off. I've been to 40 states in Canada in the last 8 years doing these catching camps. My family is finally missing me. So we're trying to figure out ways to keep me home more. So I'm starting to do a lot more virtual stuff.
Love
We
it.
just started a Catch with Confidence virtual academy, training academy, where I'm doing basically one-on-one work with catchers from around the country, actually around the world. We have one in Nicaragua and we have one in
Wow.
Australia that are training with me right now, which is
Yes,
really cool.
sir.
So Catch with Confidence is my new virtual training program where I'm doing some one-on-one, basically lessons, but virtually. And then next week, I'm actually going to be doing a free, by the way, free workshop on blocking. So Be a Wall virtual workshop, and it's going to be free to anyone who jumps on. I think we already have a couple hundred people signed up for it. It'll be
Dang.
next Wednesday and Thursday. I think that's the days, 25th and 26th, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. I'm just going to get on and talk blocking for a while. So I guess my whole point of saying that last part is I'm going to be starting to do a lot more virtual things, so everyone can watch out for that.
Todd Coburn, the catching guy. If you have a son or daughter who catches, you have to follow this guy. You have to get on board with this guy. Let him lead because he is a leader. Todd Coburn, you're my friend. You're the catching guy, and I appreciate the heck out of you, man. We'll see you next time, okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on.
All right. See you, Todd.
See ya.